What's good, everybody? It's your brother Mad Black, the most dangerous and the most toxic black man on the internet. The brother who told you to go sit your old ass down somewhere and stop trolling after these young people. But you did it anyway, and now you're being completely embarrassed all over social media and mainstream media. And I am black up in your face again with some more pro black commentary. First, let me just say, I can't believe I'm actually talking about these two subjects because I really didn't want to, and I really, me personally, I don't care about these two particular celebrities. I don't care what they're going through. I don't really care what their mindset is. However, the reason I am doing this video is because of a lot of the reactions I've seen from so many black people on social media on the subject of these two in particular, either their commentary or the situations that they found themselves in. And, so many black people out there, it's kind of a shame that we get so wrapped up in the lives of these weirdo celebrities and we'll take that and project it onto ourselves and use that as a guide to live our own lives. It's just weird, and it's something that we really need to break out of. And black people aren't the only ones who do this, but I see it a lot from our own people. Let's start off with Tracee Ellis Ross. Okay, so let's start off with what she said, since she came up first in the news anyway. So let's start with her. So if you don't know who she is, she's a very famous actress. She is the child of the world-renowned Diana Ross, right? And Tracee Ellis Ross is in her low 50s. I think she's either 52 or 53 at this point. And she was talking about, she was on a podcast with Michelle Obama, and she talked about how she likes to date younger men. And it wasn't so much her just saying that she dated younger men, but she made the comment that she likes to date younger men because men her own age are too tied into and too steeped in toxic masculinity. And she explained that toxic masculinity as if, these men were trying to control her or assert themselves over her and make her a possession, quote unquote. So, men her own age are just not it. She's more attracted to these young guys. And she even said that. She even said like young guys are uh, more sexy and cuter for her, right? So she's in her cougar phase now. And when I saw this comment, once again I didn't really care that what she was talking about. The only thing I had an issue with is like lady, why don't you just be honest about why you like these younger guys? Like, why did you have to throw darts at men your own age? You know what I mean? Like, why did you have to throw darts at older men? Just say you like getting your back blown out by these young boys. You like them guys, those young boys digging you out and them worshiping you and kind of just using you as a, mature F toy, because that's really all they're using her for. They don't respect her. These young guys that are running through her, they don't really respect her. They're just, using her to get themselves off and to kind of have that uh the allure of having an older woman and maybe saying like, hey, I banged the girl from the lady from Girlfriends. I can't even say the girl because she's not a girl anymore, right? And it's what's funny about this to me is the fact that she talks about how much she likes younger men, but it's men her own age, like people like that are my age and older, that are the men that find her attractive. You know what I mean? Like it's weird because I have a lot of other nerdy black guys that I'm acquaintances with and guys that I've worked with over the years. Like they put her high up on like a pedestal. Now she's never been all that attractive to me. I can see why some guys are attracted to her, but for me it's almost kind of like um I don't want to see her in the morning. You know what I mean? Like I don't she's not someone I want to wake up to in the morning, nor do I really even want to see her at night. You know what I mean? If I could be crass, I'll just say, I would maybe go over her house, and once I'm done, I'm leaving. I'm not going to stay there. I'm not staying the night for coffee or for morning breakfast or anything like that. And that sounds horrible, but I'm just being realistic about how I feel about how she looks. In my opinion, a lot of these mixed race girls are not the prettiest, especially the older they get. They start looking kind of scary. That's me. And if I was if I was directing a horror movie, I would cast her. She would be one of my lead creatures in my horror film movie. But as far as being the beauty of the group, or someone that she could play, she's good at playing a mom. I think that's a good role for her, in my opinion. But she's not someone that I've ever found attractive. However, a lot of my peers think she's like one of the sexiest women on the planet, and that's fine. To each his own, right? She's just not mine. But she basically admitted that she likes being, a trash bop. She likes having these young guys run through her, and that's my thing. Like, just be honest about that. Just say, hey, that's what I like, and leave the older guys out of it. You see what I'm saying? Like, you didn't have to put that on older guys, because that whole toxic masculinity thing, like the fact that you have these old women using that as an excuse now, based an excuse for their own relationships and their own screw ups. That's ridiculous. It was bad enough when toxic masculinity was just being thrown at every man that still acts like a man, right? Because to me, in all honesty, and I feel bad for you young guys, when I hear a woman say that, when I hear a older woman say, "Hey, I don't like older guys because they're too based in toxic masculinity," it makes me think that, well, hell, she just paid me a compliment. That's why I call myself the most toxic on the planet, because I'll be that. I'll be that toxic alpha male, and and have crazy women like her go away from me and go get some young guy and use him, because she's not going to use me, right? I'd rather her go mess with some young guy, and I feel bad for the young guys because that's what they're doing. She's taking advantage of them, right? And these guys might not know how to deal with a woman her age psychologically, because that's why she likes them, because she has the advantage over them psychologically and on a mental level. So, so for a lot of those guys, I feel bad for them. And unless you're just a young guy who knows the game, and it's only you're only with her to fulfill some sort of sexual fantasy, and that I can somewhat understand. But you have to be careful of that as well, because some of these older women, they can just be just as crazy as some of the young ones. By the way, sometimes it's even worse, because then these older women have at least some sort of power or position somewhere, and that can wind up messing up your life. It's nothing sadder or nothing crazier than an older woman that is, strung out on you, or you've turned out and she won't leave you alone. uh, Not well. I'm not going to get into my personal experiences, but I'm just saying, just letting you know, nothing crazier than that. Okay, you don't want that. Okay, so now that I've talked about her, and once again, this is whatever your opinion is on her, and her foolishness as to dealing with these younger guys. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous for any woman her age to be doing that. But I mean, she learned from her mama. Her mama was the same way. Her mom had a whole bunch of guys run through her. Damn near every R&B singer and producer that rolled through Motown ran through Diana Ross. A bunch of white guys did the same thing to Diana Ross. That's where Tracee came from. So it's like, what else is she going to do but do the same thing her mom did, right? Because she had that as an example. So it's ridiculous for any older woman to act like that. But once again, she's a celebrity. She's grew up in Hollywood. There's not really a lot that you can expect from her. So now let's get on to Shannon Sharpe. So Shannon Sharpe, Hall of Fame football player, Very smart businessman. I can't take any accolades from this man. A lot of the great things that he's accomplished in his career. I salute that brother for that. Right? Good looking guy, still stays in shape. Can't take that away from him. You know, I'm hoping I can be just in good like physical shape as him the older I get. Right? I appreciate that. I appreciate him as a black man. That's the image of the older, more mature black man that he puts out there. I can appreciate that. However, the other side of him, this side of him that seems to be obsessed with uh, digging out and busting down these young girls, that's a problem. Okay, that is a big problem for him, and it puts it puts a damper on his accomplishments. Okay, it puts a damper on his image as a black man when basically you're a black man who is successful at business, you are successful in your field. So that shows that you have some discipline on one side of the equation, but on the other side, when it comes to self-preservation and your sexual urges, you have no discipline whatsoever. You are just as licentious and just as incompetent as one of these young fools who just got into a sports league like the NFL or the NBA. You're just as dumb as they are. You can't call yourself a leader. You can't call yourself the uncle or the OG that's going to teach these young men how to behave when you're out here doing the same dumb things with these young hoes. And very recently, Shannon Sharpe has been caught up with this young white OnlyFans model who, I mean, literally all she does on her social media, from what I've seen, is have her ass out, right? And that's basically the image that she's portrayed as. She's just a new age hooker on OnlyFans and Instagram and everywhere else, based on the images I've seen of her. And now she's accusing Shannon Sharpe of, sexual assault or whatever, right? And I'm not even going to get into the case itself or as to whether he's guilty or not. In my opinion, he's probably not guilty. I don't think he's actually guilty of assaulting this female based on what I've seen of her. She seems like the type that invites guys to have rough sex with her based on even the messages that these two have shared. She wanted him to fulfill some blacked mandingo type fantasy for herself, and his dumb ass decided to fulfill that for her, right? So now he's being caught up in the game of her, trying to put charges on him for that. And, he's basically ruining his professional career because he has a lot of things going for himself, not only with his podcast, but working as a host and stuff like that. And I have to say that the disturbing thing about this is that you have an older black male in this position that would ruin himself by messing with these young whores. But also, like, I had to really sit back and think about it. Maybe that's the reason why he's so successful. Maybe that's one of the reasons why people have no problem throwing money at him. The white man has no problem throwing money at Negroes when all you're going to do with that money is still act like the plantation buck. You see what I'm saying? Like they have no problem paying you, giving you these large contracts when they know that you're weak in that aspect. And I thought about so many other black men out there that have reached a height of success, people like O.J. Simpson and Bill Cosby. You have these black men who reach these certain levels of success, and they think it's all based on their own merit. But I think there's a certain amount of, white guys or the white people that pay them think, well, this Negro, he's easily controlled by Punani, right? So it's easy for me to just throw money at this Negro because he's an animal, he's a gorilla, and no matter how successful he is, no how much money he has, he's always going to fall victim to his lower urges, right? And black men, you really need to sit back and think about that, and think about getting some discipline and some self-control within yourself and stop that type of behavior. And I noticed that even the black males who are supporting Shannon Sharpe in this situation, right? Because they don't want anyone to even criticize Shannon Sharpe for his behavior or his choices, because they want to have that option to be out there raw dogging hoes and hookers and OnlyFans models and everything else, and not have any criticism of that. It's sad to say that a lot of black males consider to them freedom is the freedom to put their penis somewhere. That's what they feel freedom is. Like that's part of them being successful, is once you get the money and you get the nice car, the nice house, and you got a nice business going on and you have success, you can also have as many whores as you want. And that's the drawback to a lot of black males, and really for a lot of black males in entertainment and in sports, that is your biggest failing. And they don't realize that. It seems that it happens so much, you would think some of them would take notice and say, hey, maybe I shouldn't do this. But once again, they have no control when it comes to that. And I think for a lot, especially the athletes, it starts early when they're in college and, they're on these college teams. And then, of course, once they get to the pros, they're throwing holes at these dudes. Like, they go through these holes like a kid going through candy on Halloween, right? Like there's just holes everywhere. Black ones, white ones, Hispanic ones. They especially with these Negroes, they get you guys real good with these white ones and these Asian ones and these Arab ones, because Negroes are so dumb. A lot of them grew up in the hood. They just think anything that has light skin and long hair is exotic. So Negroes are easy prey for that, right? So it's crazy when you see this type of behavior in an older black male. It shows that he has learned absolutely nothing when it comes to being a man of discipline and integrity. And I've seen so many knuckleheads on social media. That's what prompted me to even do this video, of your responses to this whole situation with Shannon Sharpe. And I can see a lot of you guys, you want to be in his position where you can get some of these stankin', nasty white females bouncing up and down on your little pecker, right? So a lot of you are supporting Shannon Sharpe just for that. And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Some of you guys, you sound just as ridiculous as these young females. You want to get caught up in the drama. Like if someone tells you as an older man you need to kind of settle down, maybe find a nice wife and have a family, y'all don't want to hear that. Y'all just say, hey, I need to keep sticking and moving and keep getting these hoes just because I'm successful. I need to keep sticking these hoes as much as possible, right? Like you didn't even learn from one of your greatest mentors, Kevin Samuels, that maybe sticking and moving in some of these young hoes is probably not the way to go. The fact that he lost his life basically doing that, you guys didn't seem to get the point that, okay, maybe this is not the right way to go. Like I can take some of the things Kevin Samuel says as something I can live my life by, but the example he was setting is probably not where I want to go. But like I said, a lot of you just don't learn. And a lot of you are going to wind up making the same dumb mistakes as, Shannon Sharpe has made. Because like I said, you want to be in the same position. And what's funny is, like I've seen some of you out here, you're more upset with black women online criticizing Shannon Sharpe than you are with the white woman and the white man behind her that is trying to set Shannon Sharpe up for a money grab, right? Like I've seen more criticisms and attacks on black women and being more upset with black women than you are with the white women. Like I have not seen black men in mass saying, these white women, this, that, and the third. I've only heard, well, these black women just don't want black men to be happy. They want to be the dick police. They don't want black men to be free. And that's the nonsense I've heard from a lot of you Negroes. And that's in and of itself is a shame, right? So not only is there a lot of nonsense and buffoonery going on with Tracee Ellis Ross, but you see the same thing going on with Shannon Sharpe. And the crazy part is, look at this meme right here. This is something that someone made with AI, But honestly, you know, this would be a good couple pairing. If these two had some sense, if they didn't have this egocentric mindset and this narcissism in themselves to think that they have to get somebody younger in order to keep up appearances for themselves, if they were a little bit more secure in themselves and a little bit more not so selfish and not so deluded by the society that they find themselves in Hollywood and in high entertainment and in sports, they would make a good couple. But these fools have so much self-hate and so much buffoonery swirling around in their own head that they'd rather crash and burn going out there messing around with these young people. And this is why you see so many of these older folks who wind up, having kids at old ages, or they wind up catching some sort of STD, or just getting caught up in nonsense like we see with Shannon Sharpe. There's so many of these fools wind up getting caught up in nonsense at an older age. Like you're too old for this type of buffoonery and this type of goofiness. You should know better by now. But once again, it's all about you. It's all about feeding your ego. That's one of the reasons they like being with younger people, because that feeds their ego. It's almost like a spiritual vampire thing going on there. And they just want to go ahead and get that, and that's all they're thinking about. You gotta think better than that, and you gotta think better for yourself and have a little bit of a higher mind, especially the older you get, because you don't have that many years left. I know it feels like you do. They both look good. They probably both feel healthy, but realistically, you don't have that many years left. You want those remaining years. I mean, you've already worked so hard for your career and for your money. Why not enjoy that until the end, rather than having to fight off lawsuits and get involved in drama and catching STDs and fighting with other people's baby mamas and fighting with these young hoes and all this other stuff? Why add that drama to your life the older you get? I know I don't want to deal with that now. I definitely don't want to deal with that 10 years from now when I get a little bit older and in their age range. I don't want to deal with the type of nonsense that they're involved in, right? So, I mean, you guys let me know how you feel about it in the comments section. I would love to hear your opinions on this. Two ridiculous older people in this ridiculous situations that they both find themselves in. Anyway, Mad Black, and I will be back with my foot on the devil's back.